At 62 years old, Evander Holyfield remains one of the most respected and admired figures in boxing history. To the world, he will always be remembered as the man who stood toe-to-toe with legends like Mike Tyson, George Foreman, and Lennox Lewis. He was the real deal, a fighter who never backed down, a champion who pushed beyond every limit. But behind the belts, the fame, and the highlight reels lies a story that is far more complicated. A story filled with pain, financial hardship, health struggles, and truths that Holyfield himself has only begun to fully reveal in recent years. And today, at 62, fans are finally starting to see the darker side of his legacy. The story of Evander Holyfield is one of incredible triumph, but also of unimaginable sacrifice. Born into poverty in Atmore, Alabama, and raised in Atlanta, he was the youngest of 9 children. From an early age, he was taught discipline, hard work, and faith. Boxing became his way out, and by the age of 20, he was already an Olympic medalist, proving that he was destined for greatness. What fans admired most about him throughout his career was not just his power or skill, but his willingness to take on anyone, at any time, no matter the odds. Holyfield's wars in the ring built his reputation as one of the toughest fighters of his era. But those same wars also took a toll on his body and mind that would follow him long after his career ended. When we talk about Holyfield, we can't ignore his legendary rivalry with Mike Tyson. The 1996 fight, where Holyfield shocked the world by defeating Tyson, cemented his place as a true all-time great. The rematch a year later, infamous for Tyson biting off a piece of Holyfield's ear, became one of the most controversial moments in sports history. That incident made headlines worldwide and turned Holyfield into an even bigger star. But while the world saw the glory, very few realized the price he was already paying: brutal punishment in the ring, financial mismanagement outside of it, and the cracks beginning to show in his personal life. For decades, Holyfield lived like a superstar. At one point, his mansion in Georgia was one of the largest private homes in the United States, boasting 109 rooms, a bowling alley, a movie theater, and acres of land. It symbolized the peak of his success. But behind the luxury, trouble was brewing. Holyfield had fathered 11 children with multiple women, and child support payments began to pile up. Combined with failed business ventures and lavish spending, his fortune began to disappear. By the late 2000s, the mansion went into foreclosure, and Holyfield was forced to sell much of his property and assets. The man who once earned over $200 million in his career found himself facing bankruptcy. But perhaps the darkest truth of all is not financial, it's physical. Like many fighters, Holyfield's body has paid the ultimate price for a lifetime of wars inside the ring. Years of absorbing punishment left him struggling with speech issues, memory problems, and the long-term effects of head trauma. Fans who see him today often notice his slowed speech and quieter demeanor, signs of the damage that boxing inflicted on him. At 62, he continues to insist that he is healthy and blessed, but experts and even his closest supporters worry about his long-term well-being. His 2021 comeback fight, an exhibition against Vitor Belfort, shocked many fans. Seeing the great champion stumble and get stopped in the first round was heartbreaking, and it forced the public to confront the reality of aging fighters risking everything for one more payday. Holyfield himself has admitted that life after boxing has been difficult. Without the structure of training camps, the thrill of competition, and the financial security that came with fighting, he has struggled to find his identity. Unlike Floyd Mayweather, who transitioned into a carefully managed retirement, Holyfield found himself constantly searching for ways to provide for his family and rebuild his finances. He appeared in reality shows, made public appearances, and even tried promoting, but none of it brought him the same sense of purpose that boxing once did. Yet through all of these challenges, Holyfield's faith has remained unshakable. He has often said that his success and survival are the result of his belief in God. And at 62, he continues to speak openly about the importance of forgiveness, perseverance, and hope. For Holyfield, faith is not just a private conviction, but a guiding force that helped him survive both the highs and lows of his extraordinary journey. He describes moments when he felt broken, moments when he lost almost everything, yet he insists that prayer and trust in God allowed him to keep moving forward. To many fans, this resilience is what makes him truly unique. Even when his career was over, when the spotlight faded, Holyfield never surrendered to bitterness. Instead, he used his experiences as lessons, urging others to never give up no matter how difficult life becomes. In interviews, he admits his mistakes without hesitation: overspending on luxuries that drained his fortune, poor financial decisions that left him vulnerable, and personal conflicts that were amplified by his fame. But instead of hiding from these failures, Holyfield confronts them with honesty. He acknowledges that he was not perfect, but he emphasizes that perfection was never the goal. The real measure of a man, he says, is how he responds when life knocks him down. And for Holyfield, every setback was another round in the fight, a chance to rise again, even when the odds seemed impossible. His life, in many ways, mirrors his fighting style: relentless, stubborn, and unwilling to ever quit. The painful truth of Evander Holyfield's life is that greatness always comes with a cost. He achieved everything a fighter could dream of: world titles in multiple weight classes, victories over the greatest names of his era, and a legacy that will never be forgotten. He stood in wars that fans still talk about decades later, earning respect not only for his skills, but for his heart and courage. But the price was steep: his health, worn down by years of brutal battles, his fortune, drained by mismanagement and obligations, and his personal peace, often disrupted by the pressures of fame. These were the hidden struggles that fans never saw when they cheered for him inside the ring. At 62, Holyfield finally seems at peace with that truth, even if it's difficult for fans to accept. The public remembers the warrior, the champion, the legend. But Holyfield himself lives with the scars, both physical and emotional, that came from a lifetime of sacrifice. His story serves as both an inspiration and a warning, a reminder that behind every champion's glory lies a human being who must live with the consequences long after the cheers fade away. For young fighters, Holyfield's journey is a lesson in both discipline and caution. It shows how greatness can elevate a man to the highest levels of fame, but also how the temptations of wealth and the brutality of the sport can strip everything away. And for fans, his life is a mirror, forcing us to ask, do we only celebrate champions for what they give us in the ring? Or do we also acknowledge the price they pay when the lights go out? Evander Holyfield's journey is proof that even legends are not invincible. He was the real deal in every sense of the word: brave, relentless, and unbreakable. But now, at 62, his story reminds us that time is undefeated, and no matter how strong a fighter may be, life outside the ring can deliver the toughest battles of all. Holyfield's courage was never just about throwing punches. It was about facing the storms of life with dignity. And perhaps, in the end, that is his greatest legacy. Not the belts, not the fame, but the enduring example of a man who fought every round of life and never gave up.